Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about Limbo. I released a video earlier showcasing what he can do, but this is going to be a little bit more in depth because some of the abilities don't quite make sense if you don't understand how they work. So I'm going to be explaining that here. Now, before I go anywhere, I want to say that since his rework, the way he plays now is a lot different, and I changed his appearance because of that. I used to have him look more like a gentleman type, or maybe kind of a magician type. But I feel now with how much control he has over the rift and being able to stop time, he looks more like he has more of a witch or a witch doctor kind of vibe going about him. So I sort of changed his color scheme to give him a little bit more of that witch doctor, sorceress kind of appearance, and I really like it. So yeah, let me go back to here real quick. Sort of the inspiration here is I looked at a couple pictures of witch doctors. I got a little inspiration from the Princess and the Frog movie. Really liked the bad guy in there. I know he's a bad guy, but bad guys are like some of the best guys, character design wise. And I really like that guy, so I stole some inspiration from him. But basically, it's going to be mostly dark colors. It's going to give you this shadowy appearance because he can walk in and out of the rift, and he can communicate with the other side, you know, kind of like a witch doctor. But there's also kind of this royal purple, but dark purple thing going on too. Even the energy color is purple, which I think actually looks really nice when you leave behind a rift tear and it's glowing purple ooze like that. It looks very sinister. I really like that. I really can't put my Tigris away. This is the best I could do with the Tigris. Obviously, you won't see a witch doctor with a Tigris, but I can see maybe like a shaman or someone like that. You know, just pull out a gun, because sometimes, you know, you have magic, but sometimes a gun just gets the job done. And then I also have the dark dagger, which is a surprisingly strong weapon, but it also looks really nice here. There's kind of a little purple glow there, but it's basically a dark dagger, just like an actual dark dagger. So I really like this design, and Carrier is kind of going in with that. You might not see him flying around collecting loot. Which, by the way, I probably should mention this. You can actually pick up loot while in the rift with Carrier. You can't pick it up, but he'll hold it for you, and then as soon as you jump out the rift, you'll grab everything, and then you just pop back in the rift. So ammo problems are gone as long as you have vacuum, and you don't even need Carrier anymore. Any Sentinel will do, because now any Sentinel can use vacuum. So let's go ahead and talk about his abilities. So I'm going to be showing his number 1 with some level 45 enemies. Let's get some butchers in here. And basically what his number 1 does is banishes like that. It's area of effect, so it banishes more than 1, whereas before it only banished 1. Now enemies that are banished to the rift cannot interact with me because I'm in the material plane, and I can't interact with them. So if I try shooting them, nothing happens. In order for me to hurt them, I have to enter the rift or wait for them to come back out, which timer is about to expire soon, so let's wait and see what happens. Oh, okay. See, now they can kill me, but I can kill them. So, yeah. Alright, so now if waiting isn't your cup of tea, you could always enter the rift with them by pressing the roll button. Which, if you're on controller, the roll button is probably the same as the slide button. You just tap slide instead of hold it. But now that I'm here with them, I can take them out. Or if I want to, I can cast banish again and send them back to the regular plane. Now notice I can't cast banish unless I'm in the same plane as them. I have to exit in order to cast it, and then exit in order to cast it. So that's one caveat, which can be annoying at first, but his other abilities more than make up for it. So his number 2 now stops time of everything that's in the rift. So let me put them in the rift. If I cast his number 2, they'll be frozen in time. And if I cast it again, time will resume. And see that again. Also, my bullets are frozen in time. They're in the air. There's a little bit of clipping issue, but if I undo time, the bullets will resume and kill everything. So a lot of people, I'm sure, are going to have fun with that. Something that you can do to keep you safe is cast the time stop first, and the clicker is still there. So everything in the rift is still frozen in time, but nothing's in the rift right now. It's only when I cast rift walk that they're frozen. So that's how you can instantly freeze everything and do what you wish with them. So I notice when I look at other players playing that some of them forget or don't know that they can stop time before sending them into the rift. So yeah, that's a useful feature to have. And before I finish, I should say that even though your bullets are frozen, your melee weapon still works. So let me bust out my melee weapon. So now his third ability, Rift Surge, is one that I think confuses the most people, and I think as it is, a lot of people find it useless, but I don't think it's useless. What it does is enemies that are surged by the rift, basically once they once they are banished again, they're instantly cast back into the rift. So I could just keep doing that. They basically are forced to stay in the rift, and notice that when I banish them, the rift surge is expended to keep them in the rift. So right now that looks useless, but I'll be showing you some synergies with that a little later. And last but certainly not least is Cataclysm. Before, it was an alright ability, but it made Limbo vulnerable because now everything is in the rift with him and he's really squishy. But now that you can stop time, and I'm going to stop time before using Cataclysm to make sure I'm safe, there's pretty much like nothing to fear. As long as I'm in the rift and Stasis is on or Cataclysm is on, I cannot be hurt. So I am completely safe from all harm. I can do whatever I want. I can do a little dance if I want. You know, it's all fine. But as soon as I let go of Stasis, now I need to make sure, well, everything's dead, but everything wasn't dead, I'd be vulnerable. So you want to try to keep Stasis up if you're in Cataclysm, because the two work well together, but if you separate them, then you could be in trouble. Okay, so now I'm going to attempt to try to show you how you could use Rift Surge to synergize with your other abilities, so that not only can you do more damage, but you can also stay safer and get a little more crowd control. So I'm going to start with just a room full of baddies, low grade baddies for now. Let's cast Stasis. As soon as I cast it on them, Rift Surge, drop the bubble. Now they're still here with me, and they're still here with me, but some of them aren't trapped because they weren't in the bubble with me. Now I could choose to kill them, or I could choose to banish, and by banishing I just sent those guys in with me. I can do this again, just send him with me. So notice how from here, as more people come, you know, more of them are getting banished. As long as I keep my Stasis up, I'm pretty much safe, because that Rift Surge traps those enemies in the rift with me. So that's just an example of what you can do. Now, one interesting thing is if I kill someone that has that activated, that casts Rift Surge on enemies that are outside the rift. So, which, you know, doesn't banish them right away, but it does mean that as soon as they do get banished, and one of them at the banish expiration expired and automatically banished them, I didn't even have to do it that time. Yeah, like that. Basically, they stay Rift Surge. So that means not only did that chain reaction banish them, but now when their Rift Surge exits, it chain reacts with someone else, and it's basically a self-perpetuating cycle of banishing. So that is where the usefulness of Rift Surge lies. by combining that with stasis or anything like that, it helps to keep enemies frozen in time. It helps to keep enemies stuck in a rift, and it basically makes it so that you don't need to use your, you don't need to be able to banish from the rift anymore when you have this. Okay, so I decided that the best way to showcase Limbo's abilities would be to attempt baddies assisted suicide. So basically I'm going to spawn the room with some of the baddest and worst level 100 enemies known to man. We're talking corrupted bombard eximus and the like. This guy, I guess it's not that bad, but he's corrupted eximus, so I guess that makes him bad. Let's see how things work out. Okay, let's see, enter the rift. So that guy's already gone. Cataclysm also deals damage that scales based on the amount of health that the enemies have. So if you banish a large group of strong enemies, you deal a lot of damage. This guy can come back in the rift. Okay, I believe that's all of them, and not a scratch on me. Now, in a real mission scenario, you probably aren't going to be facing a room full of corrupted eximus level 100 enemies with high armor like that. But you can see how if I was able to take those guys out like that, imagine how much easier it would be to take out a room full of like normal mission, which unless you're doing endurance runs, are probably going to be 60, 70 max, maybe 80 like if you're on a sortie. Those enemies are going to be a lot easier to kill than that. You might be able to take out most of them with just cataclysm, because cataclysm does a lot of damage now. So yeah, that's basically how Limbo's abilities work now. I actually liked it quite a lot. As far as what build I'm running with, the build I'm going with is a little bit more moderate. I know a lot of people like using a max range build because the more enemies you get into cataclysm, the more damage you can do. But I actually think that makes it less fun. I mean, if you could just nuke the entire room full of energy, of enemies, then what left is there for your, teammates to do? Also, how fun is that? Just press 4 and everything dies. Do you really want to do it that way? I think you might want to use some of your other abilities and some of your weapons too. So I don't do max range. I add some range, but not max range. What I mainly focus on is efficiency, which one might think, why would you need efficiency with Limbo? He gains energy in the rift and he gains 10 energy per enemy killed in the rift. That's true, but when things get hectic and you're pressing all of your abilities and spamming all of your abilities, you could run out of energy real quick. I mean, Limbo is still heavily reliant on his abilities to survive. So I think efficiency is still useful here. Especially the way I use him. I chain all of his abilities together, so I use up quite a bit of energy. I also have on here quick thinking, which normally I don't like, but considering how squishy Limbo is, it's a good idea to have it. Most of the time you're not going to be getting damaged, but when you do get damaged you can die quick because he has like no armor, very little shields. He doesn't survive very long. In fact, it's not really, I found that there's really no use in modding vitality or anything like that for health and shields because they're so terrible. Quick thinking is where the majority of my health comes from. Now, one downside of quick thinking is if you get hit really hard, you'll get staggered, and that time you're being staggered is time you can get killed. So I have pain threshold, an ability. This is a mod that I've only ever used on Limbo because he's the only one that I think needs it. But if you get staggered, you recover from that staggery a lot quicker. So it's more of a, you know, quarter of a second or half a second stagger instead of a 3-second stagger. I also have handspring because getting knocked down can be just as deadly as being staggered because you're just lying there on the floor while everybody is shooting you. With this, he gets back up in like, it's really quick. It's like, it has to be like a quarter of a second. It barely is anything. So that's gonna get him back in the fight quickly. I also have natural talent on, and I think you guys are starting to notice a trend here. Limbo's abilities don't need much strength or duration because you could just keep recasting it, but you do need to be able to cast his abilities quick, especially his number 4 and his number 2. It takes some time, and that time you're spending with the ability animation is time you're getting shot. And Limbo can only get shot like 2 or 3 times before he dies. So you want to be able to cast those abilities quickly. So basically, cast abilities quickly, get back up quickly, stagger, just get your bearings real quick. You want to have control of your Limbo at all time. You don't want to be stuck in any animations at all. Knockdown animations, stagger animations, ability animations, you want those to be as quick as possible. I don't use any of his augments. He does have augments that aren't bad. His cataclysm augment I don't think is necessary because I'm not trying to keep his cataclysm up, but if you're trying to keep it up for an extended period of time, this would be very helpful. His rift torn ability, again, I don't really need extra damage, but it is very useful. If you banish a ton of enemies and rift surge them, you will get a lot of damage. It stacks up, so like 10 enemies gives you like 30% extra damage, and so on. And Haven, I don't really think it's that useful. I mean, it heals 25% of their health of your teammates, but I think if your teammates and you are playing properly, that shouldn't really be a problem. I mean, Trinity or Oberon or someone is probably going to be a lot better of a healer than Limbo with this augment, so I don't really worry about that stuff. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and have a good day. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section and I'll try to answer those right away. Bye.